Robbie, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I was actually when we situated this back on the calendar, I was thinking back to the first time we connected.
Yeah, it's been years.
It was I don't even know if I told you where I was. I was in a parking lot in Arkansas State University on like a was it Arkansas State University or Alabama? One of the two. But
Uh-huh.
I was attending like a Noah workshop. And I was
Huh.
like, I gotta skip out for a little bit. I sat in my truck and did your podcast in the truck. And it was just like, it was the life that I lived for 4 years, man. It was like this balancing between two different worlds. Um, and now, thankfully, I'm full time Blood Origins. So I
Yeah,
get to do this every day, all day, which is amazing. It's a gift
absolutely.
now.
Yeah. So obviously things have gone well for you and Blood Origins since that time.
Well,
Um,
that time we didn't even know what we were, right? I don't even know what I said to you
you got me
about it.
laughing there about that. Had a sip of water and
Dude, it
got
was
choked up.
like really, yeah, I can even remember like the car park, the fencing, the position of my car,
Mm.
everything.
So, but you just got back. You've been traveling here of late. I think
Shit,
you were
everywhere, man.
across the pond. What
Yep.
have you been up to?
Yep. Went down to South Africa, and I think that's just going to be a regular jaunt now, literally every Thanksgiving time. I actually flew out on Thanksgiving Day this year because here's something that I don't know if you saw or
That's
not, but
okay. Thanksgiving's an American holiday anyway.
yeah, but I'm married to an American with American
Ah, yeah,
family that
that's
really likes Thanksgiving. But I left early this year. I won't leave early next year. So I went down there for specifically for the Professional Hunters Association's annual general meetings, the AGMs. So custodians that Carl and John X are a part of, the Zim PHs, which is a really cool organization because they're professional guides and it's the ecotourism and the hunting guides all under the same umbrella.
hmm
Did you know that if you went on a walking safari in Zimbabwe with a professional guide in Zimbabwe, that guide in their 7 day practical has to shoot an elephant just like a professional hunter?
Really?
Yeah,
Who pays for that?
it's problem animal control work that they do.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the level of that's why I don't know if you've ever heard, but like the standard of Zim professional guides, which includes a professional hunter and a professional guide, is likely the highest standard in Africa.
Wow. Huh. I'm thinking about going to Zimbabwe. So I have a hunt with Carl
Yeah.
booked for July, and then I had a follower invite me and my entire family to come stay with his family for however long and go hunting. At first, though, when he first sent me a message, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna be able to afford like another safari." He goes, "No, no, no, I'm not an outfitter. I just like what you do, and I want to invite you to come experience Zimbabwe."
Oh,
Of course,
sweet.
my family's not going, but it looks like I'm probably gonna go.
Dang. Where is
Yeah.
it? You know, where is it in
Ah,
Zimbabwe?
man, I'd have to pull up our WhatsApp exchange, but he
That's
said,
cool though.
we haven't finalized it. I told him I had to get clearance from my boss to she has to agree to letting me go for instead of a 12 or 13-day trip to like a 23 week,
Yeah.
like a 3 week trip basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So Zim is awesome. You'll love it. And then I went to from Zim to Namibia, but
hmm.
I left early because lo and behold, I found my grandfather's 416 Rigby that's been gone for 30 years.
Wow. Huh.
And it's all thanks to social media and Blood Origins. A professional hunter that follows Blood Origins sent me a DM. I was in Australia at the time. It was May. Sent me a voice note over Instagram and he said, I think I found your grandfather's 416 Rigby. I said, how?
Right.
And how are you sure that it's it? And he said, my buddy and I were hunting together. We're sitting around a campfire. We were talking about hunting stories. And he said, did I ever tell you the story about this gun? He starts talking about this gun that it belonged to a Mozambique It belonged to this Mozambique guy called Leo Kroger.
Hmm.
And James Lismore goes, what did you just say?
Huh.
And he said, Leo Kroger. And he said, that's Robbie Kroger's grandfather. And this guy was like, I don't know who Robbie Kroger is.
Right.
And he's like, I know who Robbie Kroger is. And he said he had the whole story that my grandfather purchased it from a woman in Mozambique whose husband used it to kill somebody over a land claim. And so she was getting rid of the gun. And it's just serendipitous, man. And I verified serial numbers. I had a fax from my father from February the 16th, 1993. I
Wow.
still had a physical fax. It was 30 years old,
Huh.
and confirming the type of barrel, the serial number on the barrel. And lo and behold, was the gun. And then we negotiated the price, and it's with an export broker now in South Africa.
Oh man, that's awesome. Very
It's
cool.
old Mauser. It probably was a custom built gun in 1950, 1951.
Uh-huh. So that's one of the, I guess, positive things of social media, right? Like,
Yeah,
and we both use social media to make a living, but
yeah,
it's always this double-edged sword. It's like,
100%.
I wonder if life would be better without social media. But
Yeah,
in this
but look how
case,
much you communicate, the goodness. Like, yeah,
I
I
know,
see
but
like
that's the
this.
other problem is the negativity
Uh,
that is associated when it's the wrong thing that's being communicated, whether that's, our government lying to us or hunters putting something out there that maybe should have just been sent to your buddies on a text change,
hmm
text chain, and not blasted to the entire world. Maybe something a little too gory or what.
hmm
Or I don't know, stuff like people blowing up pigs with tannerite. Like if you want to do that, that's fine. I don't care, but I don't want. You don't need to put it on the internet to make all of us look
100%.
like
100%.
lunatics, because that is pretty extreme. Like you're blowing up pigs with tannerite. Which, hey,
Mhm.
if you can kill 20 pigs with one basically bomb, I don't care. But let's not put it on the internet.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I don't know. And also, but having nothing to do with hunting, I think it's also responsible in a large part for just the constant degradation of society. Like
Mm,
that is a
mm,
problem. That's a big problem.
hmm
But you got your grandfather's gun. So why did your grandfather get rid of it? What was that
Revolution
situation?
hit Mozambique in
Uh-huh.
1974. They weren't hunting anymore. Luckily, the 270 Seiko got out. I've got that. I've got that gun. And then the 416 Rigby. So my grandfather, so the guy that had the gun bought it
Mm-hmm.
because he thought the story was a lot bigger than it was, which was that my grandfather hunted with a guy called Harry Manners.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have Harry Manners' book right here, but Harry Manners was a famous contract elephant hunter back in the day in Mozambique.
Mm.
Before the ivory trade got banned, he was a big guy. And so this guy thought that my grandfather gave the 416 Rigby to Harry Manners. Harry Manners used the 416 Rigby and then bequeathed it to his son, Gary Manners. And if that was true, Harry Manners has a museum in Skukuza in Kruger National Park in South Africa, and the gun's probably worth $25,000.
Mm.
But my
But you didn't pay that much
grandfather,
for it. Yeah.
I did not know. My grandfather loaned the gun to Harry's son, Gary.
Uh-huh.
Harry Manners only shot a 375 Holland Holland. And Gary, when he got into the PHing and outfitting, wanted something as a bigger caliber than 375. And Harry obviously said to Leo, hey, you're not using your 416 Rigby anymore. Would you mind loaning it to Gary? And that's what the fax in 1993 essentially did, was it
Hmm.
outlined, hey, I'm loaning you this gun. Please look after it until somebody in the Kroger family is looking for it again. And so in 95, 96, I was coming into becoming a game ranger, and I needed a 375 caliber or higher rifle to guide around Pilanesberg, just outside of Johannesburg. And we reached out to Gary, and Gary said, no, you can have the gun for a couple of months, but I need it back. And so that was the last communication we ever had with Gary. And so
But
25 years later,
wasn't it understood that it was supposed to be a loan? Or is like one of those things? Well, I've had it so long, it's mine now.
yeah, and the fax disappeared, right? Until I found it 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago.
Huh.
And because he had never heard from a Kroger in 20 years or 25 years, he was like, oh, I'm just going to sell this gun. And when he walked into the gun shop to sell this gun, the guy that I purchased it from was standing there looking for a 416 Rigby.
Oh wow.
And that was it.
Huh.
And now it's coming home. So it's a
That's
little bit got a little bit of time still because we have to get an import license, import permit through the ATF,
mhm.
um, and then get an export license through the South African Bureau of Firearms.
So it's gonna come here. It's coming to the U.S.
Yep,
Do you ever plan on taking it back to Africa and hunting with it?
I do. Yeah, my grandfather. So my grandfather thing that he loved to hunt was buffalo,
Uh-huh.
and he hunted it along the Save River in Mozambique. Now, the Save River in Mozambique right now is not does not have a viable buffalo population. There may be some stragglers in there, but nobody's taken over the Qatada. It's
Mm.
Qatada 4. But there is talk on the street that somebody is going to take it over and look after it. And if that happens, then hopefully in 10 years' time, it's a sustainable herd that can sustain offtake. And if
So,
that's the case,
uh-huh.
then I get to walk in my grandfather's footsteps in the same river that he walked with the same gun, shooting the same animal.
Which would be incredible. But I want to like emphasize what you said. The Katata basically doesn't have a caretaker.
Does
And
not.
so only through hunting, somebody has to come
Correct.
in and basically purchase the hunting rights to the area.
Correct.
And if that occurs, then only then will the wildlife flourish to levels
Correct.
where they were when your grandfather was hunting buffalo there.
Yep. Yep. The only other way that it would occur is if, and I know that the IPF, which is the, what do they call themselves? International Poaching Fund by Damien Mander, the big
Mm-hmm.
Australian guy. Um, he's raised a shit ton of money, like millions. And he was interested in Qatar 4 and 5 because it's a pretty cool block that goes from like the coast all the way inland. Um, but that's philanthropic donations for anti-poaching. I don't know what else you would have to do in that area, right? You'd have to put some employment, you'd have to put some rations, which would come from the wildlife. Um, so there's really only two mechanisms for wildlife to come back: a very, very generous donor that supports anti-poaching efforts and would have to figure out the employment and rations component,
Right.
or a hunting operator comes in and says, okay, we think we can make this a viable system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just goes to show you that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Which, we could transition here into this idea of preservation in North
Mm-hmm.
America,
Mm-hmm.
which I just talked to my friend Gabriella Huffman in detail about that exact thing. But we're seeing this kind of shift and it's from the Democratic Party. I mean, it's by and large, 99% of anti-gun, anti-hunting legislation is introduced by one political party. Sorry, Democrats, if that bothers you, then you're part of the problem. But it is what it is. And Deb Haaland, our Secretary of Interior, is a big preservationist.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't commit to, and SCI grilled her like, "Hey, will you please commit to a no net
Net
loss,
loss. Yeah.
yeah, ideology under your guidance?" And she wouldn't do it. Well, preservation just means just let the animals do their
Mm.
thing, and that's not management. This isn't,
Mm-hmm.
1700 when it was
Mm-hmm.
only essentially Native Americans on this continent. I have a few white settlers in New England or whatever, but that ship has sailed, man. There's 330 million people in this country, so now it's how do we, as hunter conservationists, manage the wildlife responsibly, where they benefit and we benefit, and it's mutually beneficial. And that is not what preservation is. Preservation a lot of times is, hey, that place that you used to hunt, let's close that off and preserve it
Preserve.
for
Yep.
the wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
Yeah, you're
that's
right,
not
man.
conservation.
Conservation has a use component built into its definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wise use, sustainable use. Um, it also has terminology of you know, planning and management and not being wasteful and not being whimsical and not being, you know, flippant about the resource itself. And a preservationist viewpoint pretty much excludes humans from the equation at some degree, whether
Mhm.
that's just removing consumptive use from the landscape, or more extreme, like you go to New Zealand and there's an organization there called Forest and Bird that says we don't even want humans in there. Like
Right.
we're kicking everyone out.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you're
I
not
have a
even allowed
problem
in
with
there.
that as like as a person of faith. Like I believe God put this stuff on this earth for me to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no place on this earth I shouldn't be allowed to go to. And I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
some of those places shouldn't be unmolested, right?
Mm-hmm.
They should be pristine. But humans should have the right to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that is very the preservationists. You'll hear those same people be like, "Well, you know what? They were there first." Okay, well that ship sailed a long time ago. You ain't putting that genie back in the bottle. So let's get down to reality and let's talk about what we can do to coexist.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's a recognition of what you just said. There's 330 million Americans now in America, right?
Hmm.
You've got highways, you've got bridges, you've got things that curtail movement, migrations, that kind of stuff. You've got things that, you know, are good for predators, right? They know how to move things, they know how to move animals, they know how where they can sort of push them against barriers. All of those things require now more of a wise planning use component to it versus a stand back, leave alone viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Let me read this to you because I thought this was pretty funny. This was posted yesterday on KDVR TV Denver, article by Heather Willard, and the title is Boulder warns residents of expected increase in mountain lion activity.
Hmm.
Do you find that in the least bit ironic? Because we are literally living in a time where the same state that just where they just had to put out this press release saying, "Hey, be aware, there might be more mountain lions." They're trying to ban mountain lion hunting.
Correct. No, it's
The irony.
it is, you can't make this stuff up, unfortunately. And, from a Prop 91 perspective in Colorado, I'm actually, based on the meetings that I've been in, I'm actually really positive that I've never seen, and I've only been doing this for a short time. I've never seen a cadre of folks from all different walks of or corners of the hunting community coming together and saying, okay, we're pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, I
It's
think
amazing.
I'm encouraged to hear you say that because, and I just was talking with Chris Tymason. He is SCI's
Mm-hmm.
Western Big
Mm-hmm.
Game liaison.
Mm-hmm.
So Colorado is one of his focal states, and
Mm-hmm.
he said he thinks Colorado is still this we could still win this. Like,
Oh,
but the
1000%.
precedent with the wolf thing,
Yeah,
which
but
they
that's
just
it.
released the wolf, they just
Yeah.
did that. But he was like, but he did point out statistically, more people support reintroduction uh, than they have a problem with hunting, right? So if you're talking about reintroducing something, most people are like, yeah, let's do that, right? Well, it barely passed. It was less than 51% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the that side of the fence is trying to use the dirty language of trophy and imply that the mountain lion hunting isn't a it's exempt from the North American conservation model. It's all
Yeah,
just
yeah,
about trophy killing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. But to those points, Prop 41, everyone learned a massive lesson with Prop 41. There wasn't a pull in the same direction around Prop 41.
Mm.
So I think a lot of people have learned their lesson. I think also the public in Colorado, based on polling that we have seen last year, not right now, if Prop 41 had to come up again right now, it wouldn't pass
Mm.
because
Too late.
people are now had more education around it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's also key to, like, okay, we know what we need to do. We know where we need to strike. Um, So it's, and then, we've got people actively, Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, Dan Gates and his team are actively doing what the other side does. And we've never really had somebody like that doing that on a state,
Mm.
specific basis. For instance, Prop 91, the title of Prop 91 anymore does not have the word trophy in it anymore.
Yeah, that was huge. That was a major win.
Huge.
Like it's because it prevents them from using that term
Yeah,
to get an emotional reaction from because and Chris pointed out like 80% of the population is okay with hunting or 70%.
exactly.
They don't participate, but they're okay with it. You
Yep,
throw the word trophy in there and it drops way below 50%
correct.
because that triggers this emotional, this visceral. Ooh, well, they're just killing it for sport.
Yeah, and Cable, you're a smart guy. Why do you think they did it? They did it because the data, the survey data that we have from responsive management, Mark Duda's group, and all these surveys that come out, what are they doing? They're looking at that data and going, huh, okay. The vast majority of people are not okay with people hunting felids. That's where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 26% of the population only supports trophy hunting. That's what we're going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
They're hitting the things that we know, like the data that the data is showing. All they're doing is picking out the data and going, oh, here it is. In South Africa, at this AGM, a guy stood up there and talked about economic changes in South Africa. It had nothing to do with hunting. And one of the slides that he put up was, where are most of the hunters coming from? He was tying in hunting from an economic perspective for the talk, but
Mm-hmm.
it was more of a political speech. But anyway, the graph was how much. What is the proportion of places of where hunters are coming from that come to South Africa? USA, Canada, Denmark, three top places.
I would have thought Russia would have been in there too. So,
No, Denmark is massive.
huh.
It's like it competes with Canada for the amount of hunters going to South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Um, and who compiled that data? The source of that graph that this guy had,
Oh,
Humane
it's
Society of the United States.
okay. Huh.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's why they're going off to Canada. That's why they're going off to the US. It's just like, all right, here we go. Here's our playbook. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and this is why I think this is the most important, and will be the most important fight we have over the next, certainly in 2024, is this mountain lion thing in Colorado, is because
100%.
of the precedent that it could set. If we lose this,
100%.
like, dude, I feel like the snowball effect is going to be just
Yep.
immense. And
Washington State will be next. New
mm-hmm.
Mexico will be next. Arizona will be after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw this thing in Colorado too, and someone commented on a post and said that, well, they do that every year. I don't know if that's true or not because no one
What,
had ever
ballot
sent me the.
initiatives?
No. I know they're doing that. No, the kicking around the idea of doing away with over-the-counter elk tags for
Oh,
archery.
geez.
Yeah, and so a listener of the show sent me he emailed me the link because he messaged me on Instagram. I was like, well, can you send me the literature so I can actually look at it? And he sends it to me directly. It's an email directly from Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I think they sent it out to anyone that had purchased an over-the-counter tag in the last 12 months. So he sends it to me, and I start looking, and um, there's these six, I guess, proposals, and who knows if they'll adopt any of them. But number 6 is do away with over-the-counter elk tags completely for residents and non-residents. Well, it strikes me as not a coincidence that we just voted to reintroduce wolves, and now we're having this conversation about, well, we have too many over-the-counter elk hunters, and we've got to feed the wolves. So,
Mm.
but what would be weird is to do away with the over-counter tags, and then I don't know what percentage of CPW's funding that is, but it's massive.
It must be massive.
When we were doing the wolf vote, Colorado was voting on it. I was doing some research, and it was like out of state hunters were contributing $77 million in license,
Mm,
uh, in tag purchases. That didn't even include like the local and state economy that where you're staying in
mm-hmm,
hotels and
mm-hmm.
eating and all that stuff. And um but I mean 77 million, and then when you look at what Colorado residents were paying, it was like 8 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, to me, the wolf thing is, it's about ending hunting, really. At the end of the day, it's animal rights activists that brought this to the table. They won, and hunters are going to lose, which means wildlife's going to lose, because of course they have no and never have had any plan. Like, you want to cut the funding from hunters, fine. Where's your plan to replace it? And there isn't one, and there never has been. And that's where the catch-22 is. Like, now who's going to
Yeah,
pay
the
for it?
the finances component is one of the things that we pointed out for CPW with the wolf thing, because the amount of money that's going to be necessary now for monitoring and all the things that come along with it is quite substantial. Now, again, I don't know the details of it, and you're right. The non-resident hunting component does bring in a lot of money, and we did an infographic that showed like between 2006 and 2020, just the Colorado habitat stamp alone, the program, the stamp that you have to
Mm-hmm.
buy, I think it's $5 or $6 or something like that, was like 171 million that came into the state of Colorado. But Colorado does now have marijuana
Yeah.
that's generating a boatload of money for the state. And so, I don't know if that is, one of the things that they will talk about, like surpassing, like, well, we don't need the money anymore, really. We've got this other crazy amount of money.
Preservation and weed, man. That's what we need. They go, yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. California, I don't know why, and I've pointed this out before, right? It's not breaking news, but these places that are, I would say, the most anti-hunting oriented, and Colorado wasn't always like that,
Mm,
but they also are pretty lenient on cannabis.
hmm.
So, and I'm not anti-cannabis. I've smoked in my life. I could care less, right? But I mean, I'm just pointing out that, hey, whatever it is in the wacky tobacco, it is making these people mush brained.
Oh man. So yeah, I don't, it's interesting. The wolf thing is, you're certainly going to have an impact on wildlife, on elk and the deer herds. I don't know how quickly we're going to see that. Um, are they going to be, is there going to be some sort of change in movement of elk around, from public to private? Is that going to change opportunities? How is that going to affect things? Where are the wolves actually going to stay? We'll never get access to the GPS collar data. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Again, it'd be super interesting to see. They dropped them into a county that voted no for reintroduction.
Right.
Um,
Ranger County, I think.
yeah, I can't remember what
Range
it.
County.
Um,
Well, it was just yesterday that Governor Polis was opening up the first box with the
mhm.
opening up Pandora's box, really.
Impact dog crates got a massive boost. All the
Mm.
dog crates were used.
God, dude. Well, and what was funny is they had to get the wolves from Oregon, because
Yep.
Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho were like, no, we're
No.
not going to facilitate you wiping out your cervid herds. Hell no, we have
Mhm.
our own problems. We don't want you. We were looking out for you. And Oregon was like, pick us. We'll do it. Choose us,
I think I
Colorado.
saw James Nash saying, "Thank you for taking some wolves off of our hands."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh, you know who else is going to lose if we win because I think it's going to go to a ballot initiative. I know they'll get the 100,000 votes or signatures, whatever it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
So I think that's formality. They're going to get it to the
That's
ballot.
such a fascinating process. I'm like, you start learning about so many different things when you're in this world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ballot initiative process is a super expensive process, because it's not just like Miss Volunteer sitting on the corner getting signatures.
Mm-hmm.
It's paid individuals, and they charge the contractors like per signature. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's like $3 to $4 a signature. And you've got to remember that those signatures get validated by the Secretary of State.
So wait,
So,
they actually they validate the ballot initiative closer than they do like our actual presidential election.
oh, maybe I don't know. But
That's
they
weird.
validate the signatures, and so they have to. So I think the number is like 129 or something like that, 129,000.
Uh-huh.
and they have to probably get 140 to 150,000 signatures because they have to mitigate for 10,000 or 10% or 20% getting tossed because they don't actually live in Colorado
Mm.
and or fake names.
Well, at least they're validating it. But what I was gonna say is, who's gonna lose if we are able to prevent them from ending
Mm,
lion hunting is the houndsman, dude. Like houndsmen, which is really the only way you're gonna kill a mountain lion, right? It's very very rare if someone tracks one down,
mm-hmm,
or unless you just come across it and you have a tag. But 99% of mountain lions are killed with hounds, and
mm-hmm,
those houndsmen, dude, those wolves get on a pack of hounds and they'll kill them. Like
mm.
that's I feel bad for the houndsman, I really do. And
I wonder if there's going to be a compensation process for that.
I I don't
I
know.
doubt it, right? Because you would be like, well, you brought your dogs and hounds into their environment and
They were there first.
yeah, it's a very tenuous landscape that we are about to enter into in 2024. Obviously, with everything else, presidential election and all that kind of stuff. But um, yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Colorado is going to be very interesting. We'll find out in the next 45 days where we're at in
Yeah.
Colorado because they've got two initiatives now. They've got 91 and like 110, and that second initiative is to restrict the hunting season to like December 19th to Jan 1. And I don't know if you can use dogs or not.
Well,
What a
then
second
you might
initiative.
as well not have a season if you can't use dogs.
Well, and that's the point, right? It's almost like, and then it's now a game of, it's a political game of, okay, what are you doing? What are you serious about the second initiative? Are you going to push on it? Are you not going to push on it? What are we doing with it? It's a game of chess, man. It's a game of like high stakes chess.
That makes me think about the reality of why people need to join organizations like SCI and Sportsmen's Alliance and
Mm-hmm.
support Blood Origins,
Mm-hmm.
and Howl for Wildlife. And because financially, like, who's doing our bidding? Like, we know that these entities, these animal rights nonprofits, exist to bring forth this type of litigate legislation.
Yep.
And then when something they don't like is going on, they sue the state
Yeah, they
wildlife
litigate.
agency or the feds, and that's where all of the money goes. We, you know, I mean, I think our best foot forward financially is like supporting those organizations because legal fees are not cheap,
Mm-mm.
and you can join SCI for $65 for the year. It
Mm-hmm.
makes a big difference, you know.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And for this Colorado specific one, everyone is directing towards, which is again an amazing thing to see. You very rarely see this, but everyone is like, send the money to Coloradans for responsible wildlife management.
Hmm.
Like that's where the money needs to go. That's where the fight is. They're hiring the lawyers. They're hiring the policy guys. They're hiring the strategists, the media strategists, the media pay that needs to go into TV adverts and Facebook ads and social media that's targeting that corridor from Colorado Springs all the way to Boulder. That's where we need to win. Not win. We need to win a couple of points
Yeah.
off of the opposition.
So, assuming we win, again,
Mm,
you've brought a little hope for
mm.
that ending to this saga. How long until they do it again? Like, and it
Well,
doesn't
I
have to
think
just
then
be
we
this
need to
call.
go on the front foot. Then we go on the front foot.
And I think
Then
for too
it's
long we haven't, right? Like
oh
we
yeah,
just.
no, look, the analogy I use is this, and I think someone like you would enjoy this. It about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, nobody knew if you were gay or not.
Mhm.
Okay. You were in the closet. And all of a sudden today, like you're proud. Like if I was gay, you were gay, we were proud. We're outside
Mhm.
the closet, we're letting everyone know. And hunting has essentially done the reverse. Hunting was proud, and now we're in the closet. And
That is
we're
a great
we're
analogy.
and we're in the closet, and the only time we come out of the closet is when someone opens the door and bashes us on the nose. And then we come screaming and fighting and punching and scratching and clawing. And then when it all quietens down again, we retreat back into the closets and we close the door and leave us alone.
It's so true, and it's hard for me to realize because I'm chronicling my life in the outdoors on social media
Mm,
nonstop, right?
mm,
I mean, it's who I am, and it's part of. I mean, it's what I do for a living, and so I share that. But there are so many people who are like, nah, I don't want to put, I don't want my boss to know I'm, or
mm-hmm,
I don't want my company to know that I'm a big hunter. And
mm-hmm,
so I don't share that, and I don't talk about it with my coworkers. I'll give you an example. My son is about to be 11. He's killed 4 deer and a turkey and some dove, and he loves it. He doesn't talk about it with his friends. Not
mm.
there isn't a kid in his class that hunts. He's the only one. Class of
Hmm.
like 25th graders in North Texas. He doesn't
Jeez.
talk. When they come over and they see all of the mounts, and he has mounts in his room, he has 2 deer in there. Then he talks about it, but like he doesn't. It's not something that he brings up with his classmates because it's different. It's not weird. It's just different, right? And
Yeah,
at
yeah, sure.
that age, you don't want to be looked at as different,
Mm-hmm,
ostracized, maybe a little bit.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and that's sad, right? That only one kid out of 20 something.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. But that's how I grew up. Like I grew up in a big city, right? We didn't talk about hunting. Nobody knew anything about hunting, and we didn't. And again, this is where we play from a Blood Origins perspective. Is that if you had asked me and my circle of friends then about hunting, it would have been just a shrug the shoulders, like we don't know.
mm,
It's not like we had a negative opinion about it or a positive opinion. We're just almost like neutral, like, oh, we don't know. We're not
mm,
exposed to it, you know?
mm-hmm,
And so we
mm,
just want to make sure that when people are exposed to hunting content, that it's a positive experience, that it's, positive narrative and impact narrative and benefit narrative and consequence narrative
mm.
around all those things that we know, the good stuff that hunting brings to people and wildlife and communities all around the world.
I'm hard pressed to ever find a negative.
Well,
Negative. Well, I mean, like,
the negative comes from a misunderstanding.
right,
Mm.
but actual real life negative consequences from legal and ethical hunting. mm, I don't see
No,
them.
legal, regulated, management bounded hunting. Yeah, there is no negative.
After Colorado, what would you say? What state are you most concerned with? Because like it seems like it's all the last 4 years has been Colorado and then Washington State. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that
I
one
think
has been.
California bear hunting is not going to move any further, um, because of the great data, the great science that CDFW has, and essentially the tone that was set by HSUS, which was, the science that came forth just said, look, your 15 plus or minus 12,000 is actually 30,000 plus or minus 12,000. Like we have a shit ton of bears in
Mhm.
California, and the data says that we've got the bear data in the country. Would you be okay with sustainable take slash hunting at a population at that level? No. What
Right.
about 80,000 bears? No. And it just came to light that they were like, well, we would never support any bear hunting
Mm,
regardless of the population size.
mm,
And so it was just laying out their cards, and we saw their cards. So I think bears are good in California. I don't think I think New Mexico is the next Colorado,
mhm.
1000%. Um, I think Arizona's okay. They may have a couple of things come up there. Um, but if it does come up in New Mexico and Arizona, it's not going to go commission. It's going to go legislative, in my opinion.
So
So,
let the people decide.
no, not ballot initiative, but congressional people, the voted, the voted elected officials.
Yeah. But they tried that in Colorado, and it didn't go with this Prop
Correct.
91, and they got
Correct.
shot down.
I don't know. Is New Mexico and Arizona, do they have ballot initiative laws in place there?
I don't think so. Washington State does, which is
Yeah, 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 that's
Um,
IP3 is coming next, I think. But I think they're going to lose IP3 again, like they lost IP13 because they're so broad in their desires, and it brings everyone to the table.
yeah.
Agriculture, hunting, livestock, fisheries. It brings everyone together. I'm like, what?
Mhm.
We're not allowed to have any bacon in Washington State.
Right.
Come on.
Oh, dude,
You
I just
like
saw in Washington State they passed a law saying to purchase a firearm, any firearm,
oh yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
to take training, and then you can't get it for 10 days, 10
10-day
business
cool off
days.
period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah.
Listen, I come from a society in which owning guns, holding guns was very, very, very difficult. So this may be a controversial statement, but I'm okay with someone waiting 10 days
Mm.
because it's like you're going to get the gun. You don't have to have it
Okay,
then and there.
Robbie, I understand what you're saying, but much like with any anti-hunting legislation, then it's a slippery slope of, oh, hey, we got that 10-day waiting period. What can we do next, right? I mean, because they
Agreed.
don't stop.
Agreed.
That's the problem, and that's
Agreed.
why one time I said this on the show, or maybe I said it on social media, and it was very early in my career, and I said it was after a big mass shooting, I think, and I said, you know what? Maybe they should just raise the legal gun, uh, the age to buy a gun to 21.
Hmm.
Oh my god, the backlash! And then I realized right then that I had stuck my toe in something, and then I backed up and I was like, I actually don't believe that because of
Mm,
what I just said. Like
mm,
if I concede that, right,
mm, mm,
and I can send an 18-year-old to go off to war and fight with the same gun that you're telling me that he's not allowed to purchase,
mm,
then
mm,
I've already lost because you're never
mm,
going to stop coming for me,
mm.
and that's
No, no,
why to
I
me the
get, I
Second
get
Amendment
it.
just has to be like it's absolute.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I get the concession part because
Mm-hmm.
I saw death by 1,000 cuts in South Africa.
Mm,
I saw it, right? I had a license, it was a 270 license. That's the only ammo I could buy. Then it went to, okay, now you have to have a safe, you have to have it bolted into the ground at your house. The police have to check that it's bolted into the ground. Okay. Then the 270, you had to have a proficiency test every year on the 270, which costs you money. And you had to
mm,
renew your license every year, that cost you money. And so it was more and more and more rigor, more and
mm,
more and more things to avoid somebody legally owning a gun. So I get
mm,
it. I completely
mm.
get it. So my comment in terms of like, I'm okay with 10 days waiting. In theory,
From a
if
common sense standpoint,
from a common sense standpoint,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But from a slippery slope, oh, we're going to now push it to 20 days. Oh, now we're going to push it to 30 days. Oh, it's
Mm,
going to be now 6 months. Yes, completely get
mm,
it.
mm. Have you seen and I forget the name of the bill, um, but Gabby was telling me about the uh, the tax stamp for suppressors. There's some bill circulating right now, where they would take that $200. So you want to buy a suppressor, fine, you got to pay the ATF your $200.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something out there that would, I think, distribute 85% of that $200 back into wildlife conservation.
Damn,
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So yeah, I
This
hadn't heard about that either, and she's the one that told me. She told me about that this past
That'd be
week.
a good chunk of change.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that the ATF should just shove it, and you shouldn't have to pay anything. But it would be an easier pill to swallow, right? If I knew that money was going back into.
Yeah, Cable Smith will be willing to send 400 to
No, no,
ATF.
yeah, for two suppressors. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what projects are you working on right now with Blood
Man, we
Origins?
got some cool projects. We got some. So I combine documentaries and projects in the same category, but from a documentary perspective, we've got two documentaries right now out. Wire and Water, it's a Southern Zimbabwe documentary, and Lionheart, which is the houndsman documentary of the West,
Mm-hmm.
which will be, pushing into the West quite substantially in the next 6 months. Those are winning awards in the film festival circuit, so we're pretty proud of that. We got a documentary that just finished called The Lost Wild Islands. It's about islands in the top end of Kariba that's essentially on this beautiful natural experiment gradient of islands that are hunted and islands that are free for alls. and we look at the wildlife on those islands. And
Mm.
it is an unbiased look. I said, look, just come with me. I'm going to go to these islands. You decide. What would you prefer? This island over here
Mm-hmm.
that has no wildlife, people living on it, literally nothing, or this island that's pristine that has incredible biodiversity, incredible amounts of animal, and they hunt and
Mm-hmm.
protect. So we got that. That's awesome. We got a massive elephant documentary coming out of Botswana that we'll finish probably in uh, early quarter 2. We interviewed 86 people in 16 days, the vast majority in Setswana.
Mm.
Um, just addressing like head on all the elephant hunting issues in
What
Botswana.
are I mean? So I think as far as me being up to date with Botswana, I don't remember the carrying capacity, whether it was like 50,000 elephants or something, but they had I thought like over 100,000.
132,000 elephants
So
in the
80,000
Kaza
over.
survey. In the Kaza survey, and the Kaza is that connected piece of ground between Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, right? It's this whole little connected landscape. And when they survey Botswana, it's only certain parts of Botswana that are being surveyed. 132,000 elephants in that part of Botswana. So at a minimum,
Like geographically, how big is that? Like if you had to compare it to something.
oh geez, I don't know what the Kaza survey is like. It's probably
Is it like the size of Oklahoma or
probably
smaller? Okay.
probably
It's like
uh,
132,000
elephants.
elephants
Elephants.
on the landscape.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And that's a minimum in Botswana. Okay.
Yeah.
That's no in the Kaza area, it's like 274,000.
Uh-huh. And I'm sure the
But
documentary will address the increased elephant human conflict.
it does. It's funny, we stopped on a random roadside because we came past this water hole. Well, it wasn't really a water hole. The elephants had broken the water pipe that went from the water system to the town
Hmm.
and had created this big pool of water. And there was conflict between the elephants and cattle, number one. And then we just pulled off to the side of the road and people were just driving and elephants kept charging vehicles on the road. And we droned the entire thing. It was amazing footage. And then a
Oh,
random
man.
guy just came out of the bush that we interviewed in Setswana, and he said, "We've never seen elephants here before."
Wow.
It was brilliant. Look, the kinds of stuff that we've got is just, again, we try to be as unbiased as possible. So we got the Botswana piece, we got a New Zealand piece coming. Have you hunted New Zealand yet?
I have not.
So
And
New
you know,
Zealand,
I did book a red stag hunt, but I'm going to go to Argentina.
okay,
And number one, it was more affordable, and number two, I would like to go to New Zealand to hunt like tar and
yeah, tar,
chamois, but I
tar,
don't
yeah,
want to. I'm totally cool with hyphens hunting. I'm going to Africa
mm,
in July, and some of that will occur in the 30,000 acre high
yeah,
fence. But I don't want to shoot something that looks like it's been genetically
yeah,
modified.
yeah. Like the whitetail, you're not into the big
No. I
whitetail
shot a high fence
crazy.
whitetail this year for Texas Trophy Hunters. We did a uh, they had me on their show, Storytellers.
Oh,
But it
cool.
was from a management standpoint. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I don't want to shoot a 300-inch whitetail deer with you know
yeah. So
67
The New
points.
Zealand piece is we've interviewed and followed three of like the stalwarts of hunter-led conservation efforts in New Zealand.
Hmm.
And they all talk about like their land ethic, which is amazing, like their ethos to the land and the Maori influence and stuff. So that was pretty cool. That's coming. And then conservation projects specifically, we have I just found out today I got the funding fully funded, three of our projects for 2024. One is a teacher incentivization program in Botswana. So we're
Mm.
going to donate cash prizes to the best primary school teachers in 4 villages in Botswana to incentivize them to be better teachers. What better way to invest in kids and the future of Botswana through hunting than to incentivize teachers?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
And probably good teachers. Like here, we incentivize our teachers to tell a boy that maybe they're a girl. And I asked my, I on a, I think it was 2 safaris ago. I asked Carl to ask the tracker what he thought of a transgender person. You know what the tracker said? he just started laughing. He goes, I don't understand what that is. I've never heard of such a crazy thing.
Mm,
How does that
mm.
how does that work for like society? Like, he thought it was absolutely insane. I was like, man, you should see America.
So
But that's
yeah,
cool.
that's
So
a.
the teachers are going to be basically educating on sustainable use and
Oh no, they'll just do their normal stuff.
okay.
It's not tied to hunting and whatnot. They just are incentivized to be better
Oh,
teachers. And
okay.
so we met with the principal of one of the teaching schools, and he was very proud he had won the trophy. So the conservancy that runs the hunting operations that gets the money, they give the school money for a big prize giving ceremony, and they've got trophies for
Mm.
best school and trophies for the best teacher. And Cable, this guy was like an old school. He'd been working as the principal for 34 years. Behind him on the wall, it said things like, laziness is the first step to corruption.
Mm.
It was, he was unbelievable. And the dude was so proud of his trophy. And I said to him, I said, money it really is a great incentive for people to work harder. And he said, yeah, I agree. And I said, well, how much would you give as an incentive prize to your teachers to go with the trophy? And he looked at me very sternly and he said, you know, I think 5,000. In my brain, it didn't matter the number he was going to tell me. I was just going to say yes
Yeah.
immediately. And he said 5,000 pula, which is about $380
For the year.
as a yearly prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
It's
said,
amazing.
done. I'll pay for it.
Mm.
And the woman in there started yipping and yapping, and they were just super over the moon and whatnots. And so we got that project. We've got a water distribution project in Botswana. So there's a borehole well project in Botswana that we're going to do. We got a venison distribution program in New Zealand
Mm.
in a very poor community, and we're going to pay for all the processing of venison that comes out of the hills.
It's not cheap.
Not cheap, but a great little program. And then I haven't fully funded this project yet. We're going to get it funded though. It's the building of a clinic accommodation in Zambia. So they've got a clinic already. They just cannot get staff into the clinic because there's no place for the doctors and nurses to live. So they only arrive every 3 months.
Mm.
And so the Zambian government sent us a letter and said, if you build it, we'll send.
Awesome.
So we're going to
Awesome.
build that. And then the big project, dude, the one that we're really excited about. I don't have the money yet. But it's a big project. It's my CNN Fox project. Let me say that.
Mm.
In that if I get the money, I want to invite like both of them. Get two reporters, one from CNN, one from Fox, and say, I want to pay for you to go to Mozambique with me. And we're going to do a cheetah relocation project.
Oh wow. Wow.
And we're going to relocate cheetah into a hunting area because they've got the prey, and they just want them there because of biodiversity. They don't want them to hunt or anything like that. Can't hunt
Yeah.
them. They just want them there and they want to do good. And hunters are going to pay for it.
I love it. And
Yeah.
because hunters are conservationists, I did find it interesting that there are places in Africa you can shoot cheetahs, but you just can't
In
import them back
Namibia.
here.
Yeah,
So
for
no,
sure.
like it's very. I mean, what's the point of that? I don't know.
Yeah, there's certain species that I don't know what you have, but there's certain species that I'm like, I don't think I'd ever hunt that. A cheetah's one of
I,
them.
yeah, but I would hunt a leopard
Yeah, I'd hunt a
in a
leopard.
heartbeat. In a heart, I think that's number one on my list. So when I shot my buffalo with John X Safaris in probably 20, might have been the first trip. It was the first trip. We went back over there in February when everything opened back up. We were the
Mm-hmm.
first safari
Mm-hmm.
after they closed down for COVID. And we went to the school, which you've been to that school.
Yep.
Um, I forget what
Well,
it's
actually,
called.
I've never been there.
But you
It
guys
was
did a
locked
project
out,
there.
but we built the soccer field. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I played soccer on that field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And the kids, I mean, dude, those kids, soccer's what they live
It's their
for. It's
life.
like
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
to Brazil, and it's the same mindset. The African
Mm-hmm.
kids, Brazilian kids, soccer is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the soccer field, because of hunters' dollars, they dug a well there, um, plumbing, all that stuff. And then we took that's probably half of the buffalo. It was like 4 or 5 big coolers loaded up with meat. We took that meat over there, and the teachers are the ones that organized it because they were so thankful for red meat and protein. and they did like a song and dance in appreciation
Hmm.
of that meat. And that told me in that moment, like, yeah, this is it was validating, right?
Hmm.
Like we know what we say we know where the money's going, right? And we know that in North America, well, obviously that's what funds our conservation model. And hunters have been doing that since 1937. We're happy to do it, want to continue to do it. But when you talk about a third world country, I think it does come into question, like, are we exploiting this on some level ever? It has to. It
Hmm.
has to. It's human nature. It has to be like, well, is this really? Is this more
Is
for
this the
me?
best? Is this the best for this place? Yeah.
Yeah. And in that moment, I was like, yes, this is absolutely everything that we say it is,
Hmm.
hands down. Watching those kids jump up and down because they were going to get buffalo meat, I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. The only other alternative is a society that becomes extremely modernized, like a UK, like in America. But then you're sacrificing, you've got to sacrifice there, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice that typically comes with that is nature, wildlife, biodiversity, all those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I'm excited about the upcoming projects that you guys have in the works. I hope that someday, before we're too old, you will get the opportunity to take your grandfather's
Heck
416
yeah,
and
it's going
go
to
hunt
happen.
buffalo. I
I
have,
may have to go hunt a buffalo in Mozambique before the Save herd
yeah.
comes back, just to test the rifle out. I want to make
Hmm.
sure that it works.
I acquired three of my grandfather's guns when my uncle died. He passed them down to my cousin, and I'm the oldest grandkid, but my grandfather gave them to his son, and so my uncle passed away, and my cousin got them, and my cousin could care less about them. And I
Mm,
told him because I didn't want him to go home and just pawn them. I was like, "Hey, John, those guns are important to me, and if you ever decide that you don't want them, please call me first." And like it was like a year later, he called me. He's like, you want to buy these guns?" And dude, I'm so happy that I have them. I have a 270. I think it's a Forester. It might be a Sacco Forester.
nice.
It was built in the 70s,
Yeah,
and I have a Marlin 3030 that's really old,
nice.
and then I
Lever
got
action.
his. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I shot a deer with it last year
Oh, nice.
just to say
Shits and
that I did.
giggles. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just to go hunting with Grandad's gun. And then I got his Browning Sweet 16, which I have not fired and I don't really plan on. But yeah, it was cool to have those, and I can give them to my kid one day.
Heck yeah. Good
Say, if you ever
tradition.
sell these, I will come back from the grave and kill you. uh, yeah, man. Well, hey, great stuff, Robbie. Big fan of Blood Origins, and I've enjoyed
Thank you,
our
my man.
friendship over the years. And I look forward
Absolutely.
to seeing you at show season. So we'll be crossing paths here very soon.
Appreciate it, my man.
All right, take care.
Ciao, ciao.